Hi, this is Edward Troxel. In this tutorial, we're going to look at a forum post that was looking to add a velocity envelope freeze frame at the end of an event, but they were actually asking about placing them at marker locations. In this case, they were trying to place a marker at the end of the event, but there's really no need to do that. We don't need the marker. All we need to do is put the velocity envelope there. So this tutorial will go through and look at each selected event, make sure there's a velocity envelope on that event if there isn't one, and then do a freeze frame at the end of the event. Now naturally, because it's at the end of the event, you are then later going to have to extend the event in order to see the actual freeze frame. So let's just look and see how that's done. Here's the script that we're actually going to use, but first let's come down here and look at this subroutine. It's called add velocity point, and we pass it the velocity envelope, the location of the point as a time code, and then the speed that we want it to be. And we've used this routine before, so I just wanted to point out again how this works. First of all, we look for an envelope point, which I just called A, and then it's velocity.points.get point at X, and we want the point location. Now, if A is equal to null, that means there was not a point there before. If there was, then we're just going to set the value to the new value. If there was not, then we have to create a new envelope point at this location and at this speed, and then in the velocity envelope.points, we will add this new point. Check to see if there's a point. If there is not a point, add a new point. If there is a point, just change the value. So we'll be using this in our main routine up above. And here's our main routine. We're going to go for each track, my track and myvegas.project.tracks. If the track is a video track, we don't even need to look at audio tracks because we're looking at velocity envelope, and audio cannot use velocity envelope. Then for each video event, we actually want a video event, but since we're only looking at video tracks, we can say video event instead of just track event. So I just call that V event in mytrack.events. If video event.selected, then I set my velocity envelope variable equal to null, and now I'm going to look through all of the envelopes on that video event and see if there is a velocity envelope. So if the envelope.type equals envelope type.velocity, then I just set my velocity envelope equal to that envelope. Now, if the envelope is still null, then I did not find one. So then I need to create, in my velocity envelope variable, a new envelope of type velocity. And then in that video event.envelopes, we're going to add the velocity envelope. And now we can add the new points to that envelope. In this case, he was wanting to get 1 frame before the last frame. Technically, this is 1 millisecond before the last frame. If we wanted the last frame, we would have to say from frames. And that is also an option, so we can do from frames and get the frame before. But I just used the name that he had used in his code. So 1 frame before last frame, and it's the length of the event minus 1 millisecond. So now we are going to add a velocity point to that velocity envelope at 1 frame before the last frame with a value of 1. In other words, we're going to keep it at full speed. Then, at the very end of the event, we're going to add a velocity point to that velocity envelope. So it's at the velocity envelope.length, and we are going to set that value to 0. So at the very end of the event, you will now have a freeze frame. So let's test and see how this works. So here I have several items on the timeline. Let's run the script. And if we zoom in, we can see that we do have 2 envelope points at the very end of each one of these events. Now if we extend these events, you can better see the envelope points. And then if we play one of these, you will see that as it plays, it just freezes. Once again, as it plays, it just freezes. So adding the freeze frame, technically at any location, we could have used markers if we'd wanted to, and changed the code to look at markers and use those locations instead. But adding a velocity envelope at any point is really a fairly easy process, especially if you use the little subroutine and just call that multiple times for as many points as you want to add. So I hope you find this tutorial useful. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Please sign up at www.jettv.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.